This is a getting started video for homework number 5. First thing you want to do is download the homework off of Blackboard and read through it carefully. This is C-sizable array, where we take the resizable array code that we did at the end of C1 and as a review in the first week, and we class size it, which is pretty cool. Now I want to prepare you. This is a mean one. Okay? Now why is it mean? Well, because up to this point you have just had to know and comprehend about classes in dynamically allocated memory. So there are different levels of knowledge, usually classified with Bloom's taxonomy, which you can look up. But the first level of knowledge is just to know the definition. You know about it, you know of it. The second is you comprehend it, and that means you understand how it works. You understand the mechanics and syntax. Companies don't pay you for knowledge or comprehension, at least not usually. What they do as a programmer, they pay you to apply your knowledge to solve problems. Alright, so you have to know how it works. Now there are tons of books out there that show you the definitions of things, and there are tons of books and examples out there that show you how things work. And there are some books out there that show you how to apply that knowledge, but you're really not going to find that anywhere because every problem is different. And so there are some generic type scenarios that you can be taught, but in general it's a skill that you have to learn and develop. That's what makes you useful. And that's why this particular homework assignment is so very difficult. Now the pieces that are going to be involved in this particular homework, just beyond basic programming techniques, is you're going to have to really know your pointers. You're really going to have to know dynamic memory allocation. You're going to have to know classes, both syntax and the mechanics, which we learned in the 2 prior homeworks. And you're going to learn about encapsulation. This homework is very, very big on encapsulation. And so it may have looked trivial in the dog example with the get weight and set weight methods. However, here I can assure you it is definitely non-trivial. You are going to have lots of errors, and you are going to have to spend lots of time figuring this out. So let me show you some code to get you started. Step number 1, we have to create a C resizable array class with the following private properties and public methods. So we're going to have array size and a pointer to an array of longs. We're going to have initialize, get size, and set size. We're going to have a set value at and a get value at to set individual values in array elements. We're going to add to front, add to the end, insert at, and remove at. Now those are what you're going to need at a minimum. You may need to add more methods at your discretion. If you do, that's okay. Like one of the ones that I recommend is a print method that will dump all the values in the array to the screen in a nice, easy to read format. So let me switch to the code and show you what that looks like. So I've got a project with resizable array header and resizable array source file. We'll go back to the header file, and I've got my I made them protected. You can make them protected or private properties. They're both one's a long, one's a pointer to a long. Then I've got my methods defined just as I had them in the homework, and notice I added print. You don't have to have that, but it sure helps. Now, when you are coding these, you have to boundary check in all your method boundary check all your method input parameters that change the array. So for example, if we call set size with a new size, you got to make sure that that's not negative. I don't know how to create a negative sized array. If you do, I'd love to see it, but until we can get that working, we have to make sure it is greater than or equal to 0. Yes, 0 values are allowed. 0 values are allowed, but not negative values. You can have a 0 sized array. We're trying to duplicate the I love you functionality of VB.net. Also, if you pass in an index, so you're setting a value in the array, you're going to want to check with negative values so that are before the array, and you're going to want to check with values that are way past the end of the array and everywhere in between. So purposefully test your code with bad index values. That is an actual part of the program. Alright, now I recommend you clip bad index values to either the front or the end. So if it goes off the front, So it's a 0 or a negative value, clip it to 0, and if it goes off to the end, then clip it to the last element in the array. No reason to get fancy. Now, we're trying to emulate the I loveness of VB. So when you call the SetSize method, you have to preserve any existing values. So for example, let's say SetSize was called with a value of 4 and then it was populated, and then SetSize was called again with a value of 5. Well, that's one larger. So you have to preserve all the existing values and add any new elements in. Now you're going to default all new values to size of, or to a you're going to default all new array values to 0. Now if the size was set to 3, you would preserve as many of those values as possible, so you'd have 2, 4, 6. When adding a value to the front or the end, you again preserve the existing values. So if I call add value to front with the value 10, and before we could that call the array as 4 elements with 2, 4, 6, 8. After, we're going to have 10 in the beginning with 2, 4, 6, 8 following. If you insert a value in the middle, that does not overwrite any existing values, but makes the array larger by 1, and again preserve any existing values. So for example, if I want to insert the value 5 at location 2, and this is my array before, after I'm going to have 2, 4, and then at index 2, which is 0, 1, 2, you're going to insert the value 5 and bump everything else down. Remove at works the same way. You're going to preserve any existing values. So if this is my array before, 2, 4, 6, 8, and I remove at location 2, so that's 0, 1, 2, I would be removing the 6. After, I get an array size 1 smaller, and the existing values are preserved. Now make sure you test your code thoroughly, boundary check everything. So for example, insert a value into a size 0 array. It should not blow up. It should go from a size 0 array to a size 1 array. Also, you want to try to remove a value from a size 0 array. So if the array is empty and you try to remove something from it, it should still work correctly. Now remember, this is boot camp. C is all about toughening you up for the business world, and so this is going to take a ton of time. Now, as per the college catalog, expectations of time required outside the class, as a general guideline, students should plan to spend at least 2 to 3 hours outside of class for each week of course contact hour. So C2 is a 4 credit hour class. It is 6 contact hours. With 6 contact hours, that means I can expect at a minimum of 12 to 18 hours of work from you outside of class. Now, since we're not spending all 6 of those classroom hours at school because this is online delivery, I expect at least 20 hours of work out of you at a week. So that's to set your expectations. Again, I am not doing this to be mean. I'm doing this to toughen you up. Hopefully you should get this program done in about 8 to 10 hours, but it's going to take you a while. And that is the end of this mean getting started video.